Kurt, I get that works really well with a certain demographic. I'm not sure how well that works with white working class men that Kamala Harris will need if she is going to win the presidency.
Well, I think context is key. I think it's very different delivering that line against someone who, frankly, is very mild-mannered in Mike Pence versus someone who is as bombastic and charismatic at times as Donald Trump. And especially when you consider the backdrop of some of the themes of this election and the Harris campaign, which is they're going to make this as much about women's issues as possible, as much about misogyny as possible. Obviously, J.D. Vance's introduction to the country, creative remarks where some of those lines, I think, land very heavy. And, every woman, I think, can understand that feeling of being talked over by a guy. That's going to be the moment that I think she tries to create on that stage. That's why I think the Harris campaign wants those mics freewheeling so that moment can happen and materialize.
Yeah. No, look, that's some kind of moment of a bombastic Donald Trump being a misogynistic jerk. And this flips everything on its head. He was a jerk in 2020. He didn't even have to be misogynistic to Joe Biden. It really cost him. Mick Mulvaney remembers that debate well. Mick, we have a campaign unlike any other, this completely compressed calendar, right? There was no primary. There wasn't even a thought, really, of Kamala Harris taking over until the debate in June. Then it was a month of Joe Biden machinations and trying to survive. And now we have even a compressed calendar with a debate moved up and early voting earlier. Who does that benefit?
Kurt and I were on the Hill the other day on this network, and Kurt said something I thought that was extraordinarily insightful, because I had said, look, we've never been through anything like this before, so nobody really knows the best way to play it out. And Kurt said, no, this is like a special election. It's like an off-cycle election, one where there's just one race and no other race. And those are typically very short, and they are very unique things. And I think he's probably right about that. And that's why I think the Trump team actually listened to what he said and said, you know what, in those types of elections, you have to go to your base. You have to make sure your people show up. I don't know who this short term favors. I think it probably tends to favor Kamala Harris because it sort of compresses. She could hide for 70 days. She couldn't hide for 2 years. She didn't have to go through a primary process and sort of have her weaknesses exposed. So I think that compressed time period gives her an advantage, but it doesn't give her a deadlock on the outcome, because if Trump is right that he's spending his time going after his base while she's reaching out to undecided voters, it might actually help the Republicans.
Fair enough. And undecided voters are something that we all discuss a lot. It's unclear how many of them actually really exist. Now you got to get people to decide, then you got to get the people who decide actually out to the ballot box. You think about where we are right now, just in terms of a timeline versus 2016, all the things that happened after Labor Day in 2016. Clinton calls Trump supporters deplorables. She overheats at the 9/11 memorial. She has pneumonia. WikiLeaks released the Clinton emails. Then there was the Access Hollywood tape of Trump's lewd comments, the grabber by the whatever comment. And then the FBI looking into Clinton private emails. We talked with Mike Allen about a week ago about what the Harris campaign fears the most as a surprise. Take a listen.
The Harris team is most concerned about what they can't control. They feel pretty good about what they can control. What they can't control is a war, a massive economic event, like real world, real events. When you're in charge, you're responsible. That's what concerns them most.
That's the real question, Kurt. What happens when something big enough happens that it requires the President of the United States to show that he is in command, that he is the commander-in-chief? And then what do you do with Kamala Harris, who is now running for president, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the presidential test, the unexpected. And we all know that between now and November, there's going to be something unexpected that we're not even thinking about right now, that for a day, a week, 2 weeks will captivate our attention and be headline news. And how Kamala Harris, I think, navigates that is going to be really a deciding factor. Everybody knows, for better or worse, whatever you think of him, you know Donald Trump. You saw him as president for 4 years. You probably can predict how he'll react to just about anything that comes across, whether it's foreign affairs or something domestic. You know what he's going to do. We don't have that answer yet for Vice President Harris, and how the Biden White House now positions her if something of national importance and prominence happens will be very revealing. And it's an opportunity for her to dispel those people who think she may not be up for the job. There's also great risk if she doesn't meet that test.
Yeah, crises are opportunity and danger combined, Mick. From a White House perspective, Joe Biden was told by Republicans for a long time to go away, and he's effectively gone away. You don't hear from him anymore. You don't see him anymore. Does that fully allow Kamala Harris to run without his record, and is if Donald Trump is the incumbent?
Well, it certainly seems that's sort of their message. I mean, you saw her ad that came out over the weekend that said, on day one, I'll be doing this, and we'll be doing everything we can to lower prices, and all of our attention will be on the middle class, as if she's the newcomer, as if she is the person who's running, for the first time. I mean, keep in mind that the Democrats have been in charge of the White House now 12 of the last 16 years, but still she's able to sort of run as this challenger. This idea of an outside event is very interesting to me, because I honestly think that if something happens overseas, that the White House will not involve Kamala Harris, because that will tie her even more to Joe Biden. And of course, right now the Democrats know that Joe Biden can't win, and anybody tied to Joe Biden can't win. So the Democrat machinery knows that Kamala Harris needs to be separate and apart from Joe Biden. So if you were to have some event overseas, or a major, for example, economic event, I don't think you'll see Kamala Harris taking a lead in that. I think Biden will be the one doing that, because the more they tie her to him, the more it puts her campaign at risk.
I would say that if it's something positive, let's say a ceasefire is negotiated, hostages returned, those type of things, to put it front and center.
That's true.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
No, right. No, yeah. It's a great point. And that's sort of right. And I'll get agreement from both of you guys on this, I know. And if I won't, I'm going to just cut you off and not let you talk. But that's what that's what the Harris campaign is trying to do, right? They want to take any and everything that could possibly be good from the Biden presidency, and Kamala Harris is responsible for that. Everything else, they push to the side. Gentlemen, thank you very much. We appreciate it. We'll see you guys on the trail.